Hello. Hoshoryu has won his first championship, but will he be promoted to Ozeki? Yes, he will. Stop throw!
Roll the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
Hello and welcome to the Dohyo here on MrJWags channel. This was an amazing July basho, one of the best I have ever watched in real time in my sumo fandom. Now before we continue, a quick sumo shout out. A shout out to the scheduling committee. There were a bunch of kyujo from some very excellent wrestlers this tournament. This tournament we also had a bunch of wrestlers like Nishikigi, who faced the entirety of the Sanyaku slate in the first week and did really well at the end. So they had to figure out exciting matches for them. They did a wonderful job of keeping 15 days of very tight, exciting sumo, interesting all the way to the very end. So yeah, scheduling guys, we don't often talk about you guys, but you did a great job this time. Sumo shoutout. And unfortunately, we have news of an intai. Current Makushita 5, Chiyonokuni, has in fact retired. This is not a surprise. He has been basically held together with physical training tape for a few years now and has had the slide down the banzuke we would expect, correlating with a lot of joint injuries. He had a wonderful career being a Makauchi regular for several years, reaching a top rank of Maegashira 1, 2 Kanto Show Fighting Spirit prizes, and 1 Kinboshi versus Yokozuna Kakadyu. He did spend a bunch of time in the lower divisions and was very dominant there, getting a very rare 3 Judyo Yusho, along with 2 Makushita Yusho, 1 Sandanme, and 1 Jonedan. For those of you newer to sumo, you may not remember his wild man style and incredibly entertaining matches. His last time up in the top division was March of 2022. But for those of you who've been watching for a bit, you remember the wild man in the black mawashi, and we're gonna miss you. According to the sumo subreddits, he will not be leaving sumo and has secured his elder stock, so say hello to Sanoyama Oyakata. Best of luck to you, former Chiyonokuni. So of course, Sekiwake Hoshoryu wins his very first championship and will be promoted to Ozeki. I think this is amazing for Hoshoryu. I think this is great for sumo in that we have a young Ozeki, not even in his prime yet, with possible leap ability up to Yokozuna. But I'm most excited about the fact that I called it. Yes. If you go and take a look at the predictions vid, I got a lot right in this one, including both of my Yusho picks. I don't get many, so I really have to lean into the ones I get. But yes, I expected that this was going to be sort of the year of Hoshoryu. This was the year he was going to take his first giant leap into sumo bossdom. And we are going to see how the health of our other Ozeki and Yokozuna hold up for the rest of the year. I'm not that optimistic. Of course, as predicted, we did not have Takakeisho or Terunofuji. Both went Kyujo, and I think we are at the point in both of their career that we are going to be seeing more Kyujo than non going forward. And yes, I know Takakeisho is like 3 to 4 years younger than Terunofuji, but it ain't the years, it's the miles. Of course, I always hope for health and I always hope for the best possible sumo to be performed, but at this point we really need to start rebuilding the top ranks with the young Hotness. But I think Hoshoryu and Kirishima are going to be 2 relatively young Ozeki who are going to stick around for years to come. Now, of course, the next step for Hoshoryu would be Yokozuna. Now, he did win with a 12-3 this time, and it was in a playoff. I think before he starts reaching Yokozuna discussion, he would either have to flat-out win 2 in a row, but the Yokozuna standard generally starts at around 13-2. And let's see what happens. Will Hoshoryu start winning more matches, or will we just run out of Yokozuna first? Also getting a 12-3, losing that playoff, was Hokuto Fuji. Ooh, okay, now I love Hokuto Fuji. I love his intensity. I love his 9-minute Meatloaf song of a warm-up. I do not think this is going to be a leap for Hokuto Fuji. What I thought this was sort of him pulling the so-called inside straight. I think this is one of those basho where everything was just clicking really well for Hokuto Fuji, and he ended up getting a 12-3, his best finish up in Makauchi. At age 31, I'm not going to say that this is a leap, but he's going to take a huge jump in the banzuke. Don't think he's going to get up to the Komasubi rank. We're going to talk about that in a second. But I think he's probably got Maegashira 1 locked up. And we will see if he indeed has a leap in him or if this was just an amazing, amazing shining beacon of a basho for him. But either way, Hokuto Fuji performed excellent sumo and fought his way to an honorable finish. Pre-Attaboy. Now, of course, we didn't have just one Sekiwake on an Ozeki run. We had 3. And of course, one of the few predictions I got wrong was I thought we were going to have 2 new Ozeki after this tournament. We will not. Hoshoryu got a 12-3, getting him up to 33 wins over 3. And then Daisho and Wakamoto Haru both got 9-6. So, they will be staying at Sekiwake. But their Ozeki runs haven't taken like a fatal blow, but this is indeed a step back. Now, both of those wrestlers are at 19 wins, meaning if we're still going by the 33 wins over 3 standard, which we shouldn't because I did a whole video about how that's not actually a thing, we could get them up to 32 because both of them have been Sanyaku regulars, and sometimes they'll give you a little extra bump in that situation. But that would require a 13-2 from either Daisho or Wakamoto Haru. Now, Daisho has gotten a 13-2 for his lone Yusho, but he has not done so recently. Let's see if he has that in him for the next tournament. I think much will depend on if we have a healthier Sanyaku next time, and I'm hoping we will. Alright, we have pre-Attaboy Hokuto Fuji, but now it's really time for Uncle Sumo's Attaboys. Of course, Uncle Sumo's Attaboys is a little bit of an extra, yeah, great job to all those wrestlers who did a great job but did not necessarily win the Yusho. Now, there are a lot of Attaboys to go around this time, specifically because there were so many special prizes this time. I have never seen 8 special prizes given out at the end of a tournament, but we did. So here's the Sansho list. It is a doozy. Winning the Gino Show Technique Prize at Maegashira 17 West, Haku Oho. Winning the Shukun Show Outstanding Performance Prize, Maegashira 1 Nishikigi. And 6 Fighting Spirit Prizes. That will go to Sekiwake Hoshoryu, Maegashira 13 Gonoyama, Maegashira 9 Hokuto Fuji, Maegashira 14 Shonan no Umi, Komasubi Kotonowaka, and again, Maegashira 17 Haku Oho, right there at the very bottom of the Bansake. So that is a lot of attaboying to do. We will start with Nishikigi, and I think this was perhaps my wrongest prediction of my July predictions. I really thought Nishikigi, a veteran wrestler past his peak at his highest ever rank, was going to get a lot of the hurt and was probably going to get maybe about 5 wins. Reverse that, he got a 10-5. He is going to be promoted to Komasubi, his first time ever in the Sanyaku. As we just mentioned, he got the Outstanding Performance Special Prize, so that's excellent for him. I do not expect an Ozeki run out of Nishikigi, but hey, I've been underestimating him so far. Let's see what happens. So yes, he will make Komasubi along with other Maegashira 1 Tobizaru. Tobizaru had an amazing tournament. Now, not only did he get a 9-6, which is going to be enough to push him up to Komasubi most likely, he ended up doing it in a spectacular fashion. But also, as in the case with Nishikigi, will he be able to stay up in the Sanyaku with a fully healthy group of top rankers? Not entirely sure, but Tobizaru has managed to stay healthy and stay focused, and each basho he keeps learning a little bit more. So as long as his mental game stays a little bit ahead of what will eventually be the physical decline of Tobizaru, I think he stays up in the lower Sanyaku, top of the joy, for at least another year. Attaboy. Then we get to Komasubi Kotonowaka. I think Kotonowaka may have had a little bit of a breakout this tournament. He got an 11-4, his best ever tournament up in the Sanyaku. This is his 4th consecutive Kachikoshi up at Komasubi, and I think this 11-4 will be enough to bump him up into a 3rd Sekiwake slot. We've had 3 in a row, but now we have another 3 with a new member. And now, if we dig into the win-loss numbers, you will notice that Kotonowaka is at Sekiwake and has 19 wins over his last 2 tournaments. Does that sound familiar? Yes, because that's what Daisho and Wakamoto Haru, that's the exact same situation. So we have 3 Sekiwake, all in the midst of possible Ozeki runs that are going to need at least 13, probably 14 wins to get up to an Ozeki promotion in the next tournament. I don't think that's going to happen, but all 3 Sekiwake are going to be incredibly motivated in September. Now, of course, Kotonowaka is the youngest of the 3, and while I did say I expect this year to be sort of the year of Hoshoryu, next year could very easily be the year of Ozeki Kotonowaka. And if the curve of his sumo keeps going up at this rate, he might be in the Ozeki discussion before the end of this year. So yeah, attaboy Kotonowaka. Maegashira 17 West, Haku Oho, the bottom of the Bansake. We almost got another Maegashira 17 Yusho, because he was in the Yusho hunt till the very last day. He got double special prize. This was possibly the most auspicious Makauchi debut of my entire sumo fandom. So hey, Hakuoho, the former Ochi, I am expecting huge things out of Ochi for the rest of the year. I don't know where his first ceiling is going to lie, but it certainly is not low Maegashira. I think we are at the point where the lowest ranks of Maegashira are almost interchangeable in the quality of the top of Juryo. So I think the distinction is less of a talent distinction and more of just an artificial line that we can only have 42 top-ranked wrestlers. So, I think that people who do really well at the top ranks of Juryo are also going to do very well at the bottom of the Maegashira ranks. And how do we know this? Because we had two other debutantes come up from Juryo. Obviously not the same young hotness as 19-year-old Haku Oho, but both of these guys were 25 and they got 10 and 5s in their debut. So Gonoyama and Shonan no Umi. Attaboy to both of you. It is very hard to make your Makauchi debut at any age, and they excelled. Again, I want to see where their first ceiling lies. I imagine it's going to be a little bit lower than Hakuoho, but that's just because there's 6 years of difference here, and Hakuoho has so much further to grow. I think these other two guys, Gonoyama and Shonan no Umi, are a little bit more in their prime body, but they still have some mental work to do to hopefully learn the ins and outs of the Makauchi division. And yeah, either of these guys could be up in the Sanyaku relatively soon, say beginning of next year. Now that we've attaboyed the young, let's attaboy the old a little bit. The bottom of the Makauchi division this time was full of Makauchi veterans who are not used to being this close to Juryo demotion. I was a little worried about them, but they all seem to do super well. I'm going to give a super shout out to Aoyama, who I was very, very worried about, but ended on a 7-match winning streak to end 9-6. But let us not forget Takara Fuji, Endo, Ryuden. Those guys ended up getting 10 wins. Also, they're down at the bottom of the Bansuke, so I expect a healthy bump back up to mid-Maegashira for all of them, and with continued health, they should be able to stick around for the rest of the year. And I know I've said this before, but Maegashira 7 Tamawashi got a Kachikoshi in the top division as the oldest man in Makauchi, and I will give him an attaboy every single time he does that. So, old man, great sumo. We'll see you next time. Attaboy. Now we get to the recurring segment, Worried, where we talk about a few wrestlers who did not have a great basho, and I explain whether or not I am worried about their long-term prospects in Makauchi. Topping the list of people I am worried about, Maegashira 2, former Ozeki and former champion, Mitakeyumi. Ooh, okay. He ended with a 3-12. That is a bad record no matter where you are in sumo. So, he looked really, really bad. He ended up beating the Ozeki Kirishima, but he generally very poor sumo, the worst sumo I've ever seen out of Mitakeyumi. Of course, he has been hurt for a good long while. He has not been the Ozeki we have wanted him to be, and he was for oh so brief a time. And of course, we got news that Mitakeyumi's father passed away right before the basho. So he had a lot on his mind. Now, if it were a younger Rikishi with a little bit more of a peppy track record over the past year and a half, I might be a little less worried. But Mitakeyumi, yeah, you're not looking great. I'm just hoping you can stay in Makauchi for the rest of the year, because the way your sumo is looking right now, I'm worried. I'm worried about Maegashira 8, Sada no Umi, and Maegashira 10, Myogiryu. Now, Sada no Umi got 5 wins, and Myogiryu got 6 wins. Both of these guys are 36, and they are in the wrong half of the Banzuke. So the question I have is, like, they're both sort of in Makekoshi land. Are they still spry enough to do sort of the thing Aoyama used to do, and just that one really amazing tournament every year to keep bumping you up the Bansuke, and then a gentle demotion down? How long do these two guys have left? Most guys do not have a lot of Kachikoshi in their late 30s, Tamawashi accepted. I'm also a little worried about the other Maegashira 8, Nishiki Fuji. Now, the other guys we've had in the worried, they're old, they're on the other side of 30. I expect them to be on the lower part of the aging curve. But Nishiki Fuji's still in his prime. He just turned 27, so what is up with him? He has only had 1 winning record in his last 4 basho, and it was a 10-5. It was a very good tournament. But if you look at the other 3 tournaments of the past 4, he's only gotten 12 total wins in those tournaments. So obviously something is going very wrong. I am not happy about that giant brace he has on his left elbow. I'm assuming that is an injury that is still hurting him. But I had higher hopes for him this year, so let's hope he can bounce back from this injury and continue back up into the Sanyaku contention we had predicted for him at the beginning of the year. Now on to who I'm not worried about. Two younger wrestlers who both got 5 and 10s at their highest point ever on the Banzuke. Maegashira 5, Hirado Umi, and Maegashira 6, Hoka Seiho. It is hard to pick two different wrestlers from a physical perspective, but both of them are right there at sort of the exact Joy line. I wondered if one of them might have like one more great tournament to bump up to the Joy before getting their first big SmackDown, but they are here. We have reached, I think, officially the first major ceiling for Hoka Seiho, and we will see if Hirado Umi is going to be able to have another leap left, despite the fact that his body is going to limit him. But both of these guys are very young. Hirado Umi's 23, Hoka Seiho's 21. So I expect both of these guys to hang around the Makuuchi division for a while, at least through their nominal peak years. I don't know if either of them is ever going to be a Sanyaku regular, but I do expect both of them to make Komusubi at least once in their career. Not that worried. Alright, who's taking that midnight train to Judio? Alright, this may be actually the cleanest, the easiest demotion picture we have had in a while. By my math, we have 2 guys who are coming up and 2 guys who are coming down, and a few guys with some interesting cases, but I do not think they are going to be in the mix. Our 2 demotions are very clear. We have Waka Takakage at Maegashira 12. He was Kyujo, 0 and 15. He's heading down. And Maegashira 16, as predicted, Bushozan did not do well in this tournament with a 3 and 12, so he will be taking a deep dive down into Judio. And our 2 promotees are going to be both of the Judios won. We talked a little bit about this in the quick strike. But yes, Makauchi regular Kageyaki got a 9 and 6 at Judio 1 East. It's the last one in Judio. He's got a 9 and 6. He's going up. And then, as predicted, Judio 1 West, Atami Fuji ended up getting a double-digit score, and the Judio Yusho, he will be jumping back up into Makauchi for the first time, and I think for basho. Now, I know I've been talking a lot about Hakuoho as the young hotness, but let's not forget about Atami Fuji. He has only had 17 basho in professional sumo. I know, Hakuoho has only had 4, but 17 is still a baby in your Makauchi career. And he has been up to Makauchi before and got smacked down pretty hard, but I think he is fundamentally a better wrestler now that he has had his second chance through Judio, healed up from whatever injury he's had, and he is looking dominant at the top of Judio. Like I said, I don't think there is a huge talent difference between the top of Judio and the bottom of Makauchi right now, so I expect him to do very well next tournament. Minimum Kachikoshi should he avoid injury. So I have talked at length on this channel about Hakuho's legacy and also the shadow of Hakuho, as it were. Hakuho is a generational figure, and that is even underestimating it. He is so huge in the idea of sumo and everything about it, especially recent modern sumo. He is the standard to which all will be held for as long as I can think of in the future, because I don't see anyone beating those records anytime soon. So, of course, immediately post-Hakuho retirement, there is bound to be a bit of a letdown, it feels like. The best of all time is gone. We have to recalibrate sumo to what the new level of excellence is. So, I believe I compared it in a previous episode to when Prince Charles became king. It's like, yeah, you are the king now, but you're not going to be cooler than your mom, who ruled for 70 years. You're going to rule for 10. That's cool, but we are necessarily going to have to take a step back, and you will be treated as sort of a placeholder in the history of, well, not sumo, but royalty. There's no way you're going to be as impressive as your predecessor. I think we are very much there in sumo, and the current crop at the top of Makauchi is going to be disappointing compared to the best of all time. So, how are our placeholders doing? Well, the placeholders are not really holding their place anymore. I'm talking to you, Terunofuji and Takakeisho. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, I see both of these guys as very much on the downswing of their careers, despite Takakeisho's relative youth. But if we start looking up and down the Banzuke, we can start seeing the seeds of future greatness. Of course, Hoshoryu just busted through that barrier very, very well this tournament. He is now officially not the young hotness. He is up there. He is the establishment. He is an Ozeki. He is part of the standard everyone is going to be judged by. But if you look up and down the Banzuke, the only wrestler over the age of 30 I see as really being a Yusho threat is healthy Terunofuji. And goodness knows how many more healthy basho we have out of Terunofuji. Again, not optimistic. And if you look at our recent Yusho, you will see that in the past, even 10 years or so of sumo, the people winning Yusho are people who are right in the middle of their physical peak and people who are just past their physical peak. And Hakuho. If you look at the past year or so of Yusho winners, you will see Terunofuji, you'll see Tamawashi, but you'll also see a bunch of guys under 30. Guys who are in their peak, or, in the case of Kirishima and Hoshoryu, just entering their peak. So yeah, we have a bunch of guys at 29 aging out of their peaks right now, but still at the very top of the sumo ranks. Do they have any more excellence, any more leaps left in their sumo? Daieisho, Wakamoto Haru, Asanoyama. Do they have any more chances left before the young hotness overtakes them like a wave of excellence? Thank you so much for joining us here on the Dohyo. If you have not already, please like and subscribe. That just tells the YouTube algorithm that things are amazing here at the Dohyo and everyone should watch it. And if you didn't like it, why did you watch this far? Stay tuned, I'm working on a new episode talking about Yokozuna runs. Remember when I was talking about what makes an Ozeki run? We're doing that, but with Yokozuna. And also coming forward, we're going to have that amazing September basho, and that is also, of course, going to be as amazing as this one. Guaranteed, and you're not going to want to miss what we think about that. So everyone, stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo.